Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Operations and Planning Committee for the Advisory Commission on Special Education. I want to thank everyone for being here this morning, certainly the commissioners and staff who are present, and also any members of the public. Given this is our first, I believe, O&P meeting or Operations Planning meeting via Zoom that I can remember, why don't we start with introductions of commissioners and staff for members of the public. My name is David Tossin. I serve as the chair of the commission. Janine, if you would introduce yourself.
Sure, I'm Janine Topalian, and I'm a commissioner on the advisory commission, but I also am a specialist in psychological services for Los Angeles Unified School District and the president for California Association of School Psychologists. Hello, Summer.
Hi, I'm Summer Harding, and I'm a commissioner. I'm also an elementary school principal in Orange County, California.
And good morning. This is Aaron Christensen. I am the staff support liaison. You won't see a picture of me, but you'll hear my voice from time to time.
And Aaron, I believe Havanya is in the process of joining the call.
Okay, I'll keep an eye out for her.
Okay. And are we missing Sarah and Steve? Oh, there's Sarah. Speak of Sarah and she will appear. Morning, Sarah.
Morning.
So we've just gone through introductions and are just rounding into the agenda. Aaron, did we have an RSVP from Steve?
No, I have not received one yet this morning.
Okay. Well, with that, why don't we jump into our agenda? We had two items that we wanted to touch on or that were agendized. The first being the Glazier Outstanding Achievement in Learning or Goal Award, some necessary updates to the process, as well as conversation regarding the election committee to make sure we're all on the same timeline in preparation for the elections that will begin in the spring of next year. And so looking at that timeline and making sure we're clear on roles and responsibilities. Additionally, if time permitting, I think it might be, I'd like to maybe start a conversation around, and I'm not sure if I can, Aaron, because we didn't agendize, but just thinking around legend policy committees and wanting to have a conversation around, do we need to relook at our platform this year, given how much the world has changed since last year when we adopted the platform. And Kim and a number of other commissioners contributed into updating the platform and our pillars. So if we have time, I'd be interested in maybe starting that conversation around if we believe that's necessary and getting input from the committee chairs. So with that, the goal award, we had a conversation with CDE staff in trying to understand the goal award process and necessary updates. As a way of reminder, last year we were not able to honor or complete the goal award process because it was disrupted by COVID. And so we asked, I believe, the one applicant who submitted their application last year we let them know that we would roll them over to this year. But we also want to update any of the language in the goal form so that we can send that out to the field. Some of the pieces of information that we received that has changed are around the use of the funds. In working with the foundation, they've asked us to take a look at the expenditures for the award and would like us to, or in the past, asked us to look for more reasonably priced trophies and also prohibit the use of the funds to provide the lunch or luncheon for the goal award recipient should they fly up to receive the award. The expenses for folks to travel to ACSE haven't been covered through the award amount, and we probably won't need to concern ourselves with the award winner needing to travel this year. It's possible, but it doesn't seem likely that it will who knows what will happen after January of next year in terms of COVID. So right now, I think the best course of action is to plan as though we may still be in this mode in terms of virtually when the award is announced and shared. But we may in the future need to look at how we address the travel of the Gold Award winner up to CDE, or if we want to allow them to participate in the meeting virtually, or find another way to accomplish that. The other piece that we looked at was at some point in time, commissioners would travel to some of the award sites and look at the program firsthand. I don't believe we've done that in a number of years. And so we may need to have a conversation if we want to revisit that and find out how we might budget for those travel expenses. For those of you who've been on the commission longer than I have, do you remember participating in the Gold Award where there were site visits or the conversation around why there was a change?
Hi, David. There were site visits to my recollection. I never participated in them. But I think it was, if I recall, it was just when it was logistically possible. Like if a commissioner happened to be close by where someone was, something like that.
And if it was based on proximity, would we only visit one or some of the sites, or all of the sites, or only the final winner?
I don't know for sure, but I just remember when people would report out, there would be some that had been visited, but I don't know the criteria by which it was decided which sites were visited and which weren't.
It wasn't a part of the selection for the winner that you had a site visit or anything, and it was considered in your application. It was basically after people had won the award, then people would go and visit the program. So it wasn't, there isn't a causal, you go visit the program as one of the finalists and use that to make any decisions.
Okay. And so it might be possible, if we're not able to have the award winner travel up to CDE or to Sacramento, as they have in the past because of funding and other situations, we may look at, potentially, if possible, having the site visits, as Sarah described, afterwards to see the program and include it in a commissioner report, or the visit could be part of our annual report and communication around what we saw in the application, and then a commissioner report from a site visit. I think would be a nice dovetail and a way to close the loop on that. So, Aaron, in terms of updating the documents for the Gold Award, are there any questions that we need to answer to give staff direction on that, or are we relatively good in terms of just updating the dates?
I think we're relatively good. Typically, we're going to update the web page and the application at the beginning of the new year. But I can send out the current application information as well as the rubric to the goal committee. And perhaps they can meet, if you want, in February to review that. Or if we just want to have them update it, they can update it, and then we can post it online once we're ready to post the application.
Okay. And I've lost my listing of who the goal committee is. Can you remind us, please?
Yeah, give me just a second. Sorry about that.
No problem. I believe it was Michelle.
Mm-hmm. So for the goal committee, I have Michelle Andrus as the chair, and then Don Hamilton and Christine Oyakawa were the two members on the committee.
Okay. So, Aaron, if I can ask you to send them the documents that you referenced, and I'll I'll follow up with Michelle and ask how she'd like to proceed in terms of having a committee meeting at the February meeting, or if the committee would like to. I don't believe it would violate anything if they worked on it. Or maybe it would if they worked on it outside of ACSE.
Yeah, I think since it's typically the same form, maybe if they want to make drastic changes, but I can look into that as well and send you some information on that. I can also send the committee the timeline too, so they have that information.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Aaron. All right, so any other thoughts or comments related to the goal award? All right, so moving on. To the election of officers. And so looking at the bylaws, we have lots of time before we need to begin the election process. Steve and, I'm sorry, Aaron, Steve and who else? Is it Janine?
Me, yes.
Served as the election committee last year. I would propose that I reach out to Janine and Steve offline and get a sense of their interests of continuing in those roles after the first of the year. So kind of confirm that at the February meeting, and assuming their interests in continuing in those roles, we would have that conversation and begin the election process in terms of the nominations at the April meeting, with the votes at the June meeting, and the new officers taking their roles or beginning their roles at the August meeting, beginning the next fiscal year. One thing that I wanted to maybe open up for conversation, and looking through the bylaws outside of the nomination form, there are no other pieces of information that are shared by folks interested in pursuing an officer role. And in other organizations that I participated in that had similar processes, some at some point moved in the direction of at least requesting a letter of interest that allowed folks who are interested to maybe share some thoughts and maybe even introduce themselves to other commissioners, because we will have a significant level of turnover with folks terming out. I believe after the first of the year, I think the state board has 3 roles that they'll be filling. And so I wanted to suggest maybe we consider the possibility of allowing for a letter of interest or some other letter of introduction when folks are interested in pursuing office, not trying to lean to where we're having a full political season and campaign with posters and buttons and stickers, but certainly an introduction and maybe some thoughtful comments around how they view their role as one of the officers in ACSE. So thoughts or reactions to that idea?
I think that's a great idea. Unfortunately, with Zoom, what you don't get is to really have those conversations with folks during the break or at lunch and get to know people. We share just a snippet of who we are, our background during introductions, and that really doesn't kind of tell our story. So I think that it would be great for people to, especially because it is a self-nominated role, that people should be able to kind of give a little bit of their background. Like you said, if you say, these are share your background, share why you want this position, or, what you think you could do. So.
Well, and I would recommend we stop short of resumes, just out of respect to the different experiences that everyone brings to the commission. We wouldn't want to give the appearance that we're leaning, to educators with degrees or other sets of experiences. And so I think hearing from commissioners in their voice and role with some maybe prescribed criteria or parameters would be sufficient. And Sarah, you bring up an interesting point about the relationship building and the loss of the opportunities to do that because of COVID. And so maybe that may be something we talk about as commissioners in future agenda items. or maybe at the next operations and planning committee, because I know I really learned a great deal my first year being able to go around the corner and have lunch, or ask a question or ask an aside or learn someone's experience because I was sitting next to them. And so just like educators across the state are grappling with the same challenge, how do we ensure that the appropriate relationships are in place and we're recreating the channels that were previously in place. Before we move on from election, any other thoughts or input or suggestions?
I just have a question. Do we know when we're going back in person? Do we have an idea of any sort? No. I
don't. That's a bit outside of my scope.
Yes, totally. And I get it. I just wanted to put it out there because I think that, and I do agree with Sarah, because I think that's what's lost, because I can't lean over and say, hey, Sarah, what was that? If I don't understand something, or if I have a question. So I think that's lost, but I think you bring up a good point as well, where you talk about more of, the not having a whole resume, right? And just like, why is, like, what is your why, right? Why do you do this work? So I think that's a good point.
And I think, David, maybe what needs to be framed before people even consider, this is really what those two leadership positions mean and the work that they do, without scaring people. I think there was, it's 30 hours a week of my time to do this or to do that. But I think if it is a conversation of, here's what this really entails, because as most people on this, advisory commission have full plates outside of this as well. So, but we do want people to share in leadership. And I do think different leaders bring a different focus or a different, so it's like you want people to understand the job and be realistic about it, but you don't want to frighten people off so that people say, I don't want to be able to do that. But I think especially for new people, and because we haven't really been in person, it would just be helpful, for Summer or for you or for Gina or for anybody who's been a chair to kind of share, yes, it's work and this is what, but here's the upside to, to doing that. And maybe it's the connections or the networking or the different pieces. So,
that's a great idea. At the April meeting or the February meeting, we may schedule a few moments or agendize a few moments for past officers to share, as Sarah is communicating, here's what it looks like and benefits and things you should know, so everyone is able to go in eyes wide open. And I believe that adds a layer, having that public conversation adds an additional layer of transparency. So there's, we're not having one-off conversations, and all commissioners are hearing the information around the roles at the same time.
Yeah, David, unofficially, I remember Maureen Burness and I, maybe in my first 2 or 3 commission meetings, because I came from Gen Ed, I really responded to this just based upon an email that I received, and it somehow struck my attention and I applied. But she was lovely, and just having some orienting conversations as I was just deer in the headlights wondering what was going on. So I think Sarah's point is great, that sometimes you can just encourage people along in those first few meetings, because it takes a while until you can see how the work that you do starts coming together. It's a bit of a blur in the beginning.
100% agree. Well, and past chairs make it look really easy. All right. Well, that concludes our agenda for operations and planning. Want to honor the rules of Bagley-Keene in terms of our open meetings and not adding additional items to the agenda. Before our February meeting, Aaron, what I'd like to do is send an email out to the O&P committee and solicit agenda items, in addition to the items that we suggest in the ACSE meeting or the full meeting. or that come up in conversation between Havanya and I, want to solicit, agenda topics from other members of the committee as well.
Okay, we'll make sure that happens.
All right. So with that, I will adjourn ONP. I'm not sure if there's an official wand to wave or gavel to bang, or just wave. Aaron, any direction?
No, I think we can just sign off until the regular meeting starts.
Okay, and should we use the same link or the link that was sent to us previously?
Use this same link, and then, in fact, you can just turn your mics and cameras off, and then hop back on right before the 10 o'clock meeting starts.
All right, perfect. See everyone at 10. Thank you.